Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. All right. I've intermittently looked online to see how Biden's State of the Union speech is going and what topics he's covering. I've not watched it. The only news I've really gotten from it is that Marjorie Taylor Greene was not able to control herself and heckled Biden, and he held up a pin of a student that was killed by an immigrant or an illegal immigrant in the United States. And the Republicans are basically trying to say that Biden's weak on the border and it causes white people to be killed by brown people. Let's call it what it is. It's race baiting and fear mongering with the Republican Party. Yet this is the same House of Representatives that refused to take up a comprehensive border bill, bipartisan, that was passed in the Senate that gave the Republicans everything they've wanted regarding the border for the last 30 or 40 years. Best deal they've ever had. And they said no. So y'all are two-faced, need to make up your mind. Oh, I know what your mind is. Don't do anything. Just get people upset. That's all they're good for. Anyways, I want to look at the energy around Biden's State of the Union speech. It might still be going on. It might be over with at this point. But I want to read on the energy around his State of the Union address and the longer-term consequences of it. Okay? Come on down. Let's see what we got. Hopefully this will be more interesting than that Ronnie Jackson one. Like anybody cares about that dude. Okay, upside down deck. Here we go. State of the Union. What do we got? Biden worked out and just hammered the accomplishments of the Democrats, from the bills and legislation they got through, to the economy being better than China and the rest of Europe, to things that they've done to help ordinary Americans, lowering inflation, working through the supply chain issues, etc., etc. Just the accomplishments that they've got going on, as well as plans of things they want to do, like, raising taxes on billionaires because they don't pay their fair share. Percentage-wise, they just don't. And we can have better social programs. Heck, you can even cut the debt. You can have a balanced budget if you tax people fairly. Crossed with the Hanged Man. Underneath is the Lover's card. A couple major arcana here. The messaging that he's trying to get across, he's trying to get the messaging of the accomplishments of the Democratic Party, because honestly, the mainstream media isn't doing its job. Now, the mainstream media's job is not to be pro-Biden. It's to report on the news. But they don't report on the news, they report on the drama. Because the drama is what sells advertising spaces. So the Biden administration has a lot of accomplishments that a lot of people don't know about because the media doesn't cover them. It covers the drama queen that's Donald Trump. It covers the drama that's drummed up by the House of Representatives. There'll probably be more talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene heckling Biden and handing him a pin than about Biden's speech about how good America has been doing under his administration. That sort of thing. Underneath it all is the Lover's card. Biden is trying to reach out to everyday Americans to point out the accomplishments of his administration and open their eyes to the things that their media sources aren't telling them. Now, is he going to make a lot of inroads with MAGA? None. Absolutely none whatsoever. This is more, again, trying to reach the Nikki Haley Republicans. The 40% of Nikki Haley's, the 30 to 40% of Nikki Haley supporters that will not vote for Donald Trump. He is trying to reach out to them to basically get them to look at the upcoming election differently. It's not a crime to vote for a Democrat when the Republican candidate is literally campaigning on being an autocrat. literally campaigning on taking America's democracy and flushing it down the toilet. You can ignore 60% of the GOP. They will never vote for a Democrat. They'd rather live in an authoritarian government than a democracy, so long as a Republican is in charge of the authoritarian government. You can throw those people out. But for the other 40%, you got to reach out to them. You've got to show them that you're a reasonable alternative. And then maybe in 2028, your party will actually put up a candidate that you could support that's not going to, be a traitor to the country. We set such high bars here. In the past, the Five of Cups. I think this is, Biden looks at his administration. It's like, we've done all these things and we can't get any traction. Heck, the only traction he gets is that he's exonerated from documents cases, and all anybody wants to talk about is some lines in that report that had no business being there about his memory. Drama. It's all about the drama. The guy can't get a break. Any other presidential year prior to 2016, he would be considered a great president. But from 2016 on, it's money and drama. Current situation, King of Cups. Many readers' card for Joe Biden. My card for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is being Joe Biden. He's being a compassionate leader, touting the things that his administration have done and how it helps ordinary people. He can't control the media and how the media covers him. So, he's Uncle Joe trying to reach out to people. Now, he does have the Dark Brandon edge that he could throw out there, and that'll get coverage in the media. I don't know if we'll see any cards that will indicate that. But this one right now is reconciliatory Uncle Joe, trying to reconcile between people. His whole speech is about a message of values. Values that we had when we were kids, values we had growing up, values that keep America young and progressing. He invoked Ronald Reagan. I was kept looking for what he had to say. I'm sure what he had to say was Ronald Reagan and his opposition to Russia, and the totalitarian regime that was Russia before Glasnost and Mikhail Gorbachev came into power. And then he ripped on Donald Trump's support of Russia. And I imagine it's a compare and contrast, reaching out to Republicans, reminding them that Ronald Reagan would not approve of Donald Trump. Just like if Ronald Reagan was in the Republican Party right now, Trump and his supporters would call him a rhino. They'd also call Jesus a socialist and would want to have him arrested too, because, that's who they are. Lesson to be learned, the star card. I think he's trying to paint a rosy picture and a promising future for the United States. His star might rise after the State of the Union speech. This is a great card to have in this position. He's, again, highlighting the accomplishments of his administration, the greatness that is this country, and his association with that. And the two should be linked. Outcome is the Ace of Wands. I suspect Joe Biden is going to be taking stronger actions going forward. And this is going to give his campaign a big push, whether it's a moral victory, a rejuvenation of morale in his group, or maybe even folks that are coming over from other parties and saying, you know what, for this election, I can do this. That's what I'm getting from that. Let's delve a little deeper, shall we? Okay, so that's the energy around there. And again, that Ace of Wands might be, we can do this, people. We need to go out and work together and, again, get people motivated, get them jazzed up and ready for action here. Could also be about stuff that he's wanting to do. Ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, for instance. And the other thing is, he actually has a platform. He can tell you what he wants to do. The Republicans can't because they don't have a platform. They haven't had a platform in years. We'll do whatever Donald Trump wants us to do. That's their platform. That's not a platform. Okay. How does Biden's speech resonate with never Trumpers that voted for Nikki Haley? Suburban women, college-educated men, other groups that would normally vote Republican but are just aghast at the Roe v. Wade laws and the actions and rhetoric of Donald Trump. How will that speech impact them? Two of Wands. We go from the Ace of Wands as the outcome to the Two of Wands over here, or I should say, it was in the outcome position. The Two of Wands is the next step. The Ace of Wands is pushing him to action. The Two of Wands is starting to map out what your next steps are. Over here, crossed with the Eight of Swords and the Six of Swords. This card came up for Nikki Haley time and time again. When I was throwing on her the other day. She did suspend her campaign a lot more quickly than I thought she was going to suspend it. And again, I was basing mine off of previous statements where it sounded like she was going to go through at least Super Tuesday and maybe an election or two after that. I could be wrong on that one. That could be an assumption on my part. I know for a fact she was going to stay through Super Tuesday. But people don't want to be tied to Donald Trump. They're not going to vote for Trump. They want to vote for Haley, but their candidate isn't there, and they're feeling stuck. And Biden, I think, is giving them the ability, the messaging of, again, this doesn't have to be forever. This right now, the election in 2024 for president is purely about keeping your democracy. Can you on one election vote for a candidate you wouldn't normally vote for, whose values might be different than your own, because his values at least keep America in a democracy? That's kind of what he's looking for. I'm the calm, reasonable candidate. I'm not the screaming nut job. That's oh, good Lord. All the gas and everything like that Donald Trump does and all the actions Donald Trump does. Do you really want that drama? You can have a normal functioning government that actually tries to do stuff for you. So he's trying to reach out to people that feel like they're trapped. They have to vote Republican. He's reaching out, trying to give them an alternative. And they're actually thinking about it. Do I really want to be trapped with this party? Five of Cups. How is this impacting, again, suburban women and college-educated men? They've been disappointed with the Republican Party. They're disappointed that Nikki Haley didn't progress forward. And, they're it's sad to say, but they're lost. They are absolutely lost. They don't know what to do. They really wanted Nikki Haley getting the nomination and not dropping out would have made life easy on them. Now life is not so easy because they have to make hard choices. And value choices that they may not be prepared to make at this point. And it's really, it shouldn't be a difficult choice, but for them it is. Identity politics. Current situation is the Fool card. It's a new journey for some of them. Some might be foolish and vote for the guy who's going to take them and the country off the cliff. Others might begin a new journey. That doesn't mean they're going to be Democrats, but it's going to be a journey of either I'm not going to vote or I might have to vote for somebody I wouldn't vote for. And honestly, it could be liberating to them if they would do that. And I'm not saying that because I want them to vote for a Democrat, but it's just, it can break them out of the mold of you have to vote for your team. as opposed to voting for the guy who's going to do the most for you. The overarching energy is the Ace of Cups. Strong passions here. The folks that will vote for Biden, they absolutely will not vote for Trump. Trump is not an option. And at least there is some subset of Republicans that recognize that. My brother, by the way, would be one of them. He voted for Biden and Harris in 2020. And I've posted up, I think, the picture on my community board of, I may be a Republican, but I'm not an idiot. Biden Harris. Yeah, my brother has critical thinking skills. He recognizes a con man when he sees him. This is not rocket science. Would Gary prefer to have voted for Nikki Haley? Yeah, I'm sure he would have. Frankly, I find her abhorrent, but that's me. I don't get to put my values on him. Even though we have very, very, very similar values, I think we just have some core assumptions that are different. If Gary's core assumptions aligned with mine, I think he would be voting differently too. But there's some value differences also, and that's fine. My brother's not an idiot, basically is what I'm saying. I guess I am saying that Republicans that vote for Trump are idiots. I guess that's what I'm saying. Sorry, guys. If you can't recognize somebody who wants to take this country into an authoritarian government, well, honestly, you're just not paying attention. Or you're so blinded by your emotions that you'll walk right off the cliff. Getting back to the reading here, the lesson to be learned is the Hierophant, the government. Big government versus small government. Government that's working for the people versus a government that is ruling the people. Do you want a government that is a king, or do you want a government that is representative? That's the message that Biden's trying to get out. That's the message that these people that are, again, that would normally vote Republican, when they're thinking about Biden, that's what they have to think of. What government do we want? Outcome. Look at that. 2 of Cups. I think Biden's speech is done a very good job of opening the door to some people that would not normally would vote red, to get them to vote blue. And the funny thing is, it doesn't have to be a lot. Even in a close race, a 50-50 state, 3%. Just sort of running some numbers past you. Nikki Haley would get about 40% of the vote compared to Trump's 60%. Ballpark. Of Nikki Haley's voters, roughly a third, it might be as much as 40%, we'll call it a third, just to keep it down a little bit. A third of her voters said they would never vote for Donald Trump. Probably means somewhere between 20 and 30% would consider voting for Donald Trump or are undecided. But let's call it a third. So her 40% of Republicans who vote, a third of those would not vote for Trump. That's about 13.5%. Okay? Of the Republicans who voted said, nope, not voting for Trump. That's roughly 1 in 8. 1 in 7, 1 in 8 will not vote for Trump. But call it 13% of those voters. Now, let's say that, is that right? Do I get my numbers right here? Yeah, 13%. Now let's say only half of those people either don't vote for Trump or vote for Biden. Something along those lines. And we'll split that 50-50. So that's going to be roughly 3% will throw their votes to Biden. 3% won't vote for the president. And let's say the other half cave in and vote for Trump anyways because they can't help themselves. That's still about a 6% drop in Republicans who vote support for Donald Trump. Let's say you've got a state of 2 million people, and it's a 50-50 state. Biden and Trump both have 1 million votes. Biden picks up 3% of the Republican votes. Okay? So that's of the million, he gets 3%. That's 30,000 votes. Now he has 1,030,000. that means that 30% aren't voting for Donald Trump. That's 970,000. And let's say another 30% don't vote. So that's another 30 down. So the final election comes out 940 for Trump and 1,030,000 for Biden. So Biden wins by about 100,000 votes. That's what Nikki Haley voters can do to sway this election. It doesn't take much in a closely fought election to do that. Which is why Liz Cheney is, talking about anything she can do to prevent Trump from seeing the Oval Office, she'll do. Maybe she should start working over Nikki Haley to see if she can get Nikki Haley as an ally to urge her voters not to vote for Trump. That's going to be an interesting one because, again, I think Nikki Haley is going to be lobbied hard to be Trump's VP. Which is why I think when I was saying, in April, how's her election looking? I saw that 8 of Swords still. I was thinking, maybe end of March, beginning of April, she's making her choice about her presidential bid. That could be her choice about her vice presidential bid, too. Just throwing that out there. How's Trump's health? I suspended my campaign and then Trump has a health event. Can I get back in the race? Oh, that Knight of Swords. It's right up there now with the Drunken Hillbilly Brawl card. Okay, what's my next question here? How will... How would I want to ask? Let's suburban women. What are suburban women who supported Nikki Haley? What's their view on Donald Trump? These are the, again, here are the people that you have rights taken away. You can fool yourself on a lot of things, but you can't fool yourself on that. You had your rights taken away. What do suburban women who would support Nikki Haley feel about Donald Trump? Well, that kind of says it all, doesn't it? Donald Trump is the devil. They've chained themselves to him, but Nikki Haley gave them hope. If nothing else, Nikki Haley gives them the permission to unchain from Trump. Trump isn't the only option out there. They can walk away. They can convince their husbands to walk away too. Their sons and daughters. Ace of Swords. Yeah. Trump took away their rights. Trump appointed Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court justices overturned Roe v. Wade. That is an outrage to women everywhere. Even women who are, religious and wouldn't have an abortion themselves. They don't want that right taken away from their friends, from their sisters, from their daughters, their nieces, their grandchildren. No, that's not right. You don't get it to take away people's rights. But you can draw a direct line between that and Donald Trump. Now, the funny thing is, Donald Trump, when I think first came out, he didn't think that was a great idea by the Supreme Court. And he was right. It was not a good idea. But since he saw that the Republican Party was really rallying around it, well, of course he embraced it then. But if you go looking for quotes, you will likely be able to find quotes of Donald Trump saying that he thinks it's a bad idea. He always talks out both sides of his mouth. He'll say something's a good idea or a bad idea, and then he will grab whatever quote he needs to say, see, I always said it was a good idea, or I always said it was a bad idea. The guy he's always moving the goalposts. Underneath it all is the Three of Coins. This is women discussing it with their friends, discussing their values. They might be keeping it to themselves. They might be keeping it, not talking with their red baseball cap wearing husbands, but they are talking amongst themselves, or they're keeping secret their values. Do not be surprised if the polling shows that more women are voting for Trump than actually vote for them, because once they're in the ballot box, nobody knows how they vote. It's a secret. How are women who support Nikki Haley feeling about Donald Trump? Sun card. Sun's been exposed on the devil. They now know who Donald Trump is. They know what Donald Trump represents. They know who supports Donald Trump and what they represent and whose rights matter and whose rights don't. If you're an old white male, man, life is looking good. You're going back to the 50s. Whether it's the 1950s, the 1850s, the 1750s, or the 950s, we're going back to the 50s. We'll just determine which century later. But all y'all women, you just don't need to have that right to vote or hold a job. You just need to be barefoot and pregnant. And don't even have an opinion on things. Looking at values, these women, now they see the truth of what the Republican Party and Trump are, what they will do to their rights. They now have to reevaluate their values. You know, do I keep voting this party line? Do I change parties? Do I just not vote? You know, what's next? And almost is like this, my God, what's next? Talk with your friends. You know, that quiet hush talking of, you know, it almost feels like you're cheating or you have a conspiracy type thing going on. But women need to process this and discuss it with those that they're close to. And it's almost like consensus building. I'm not saying that they can't make up their decisions on their own, but without trying to be stereotypical, women have developed really good skills of mutual support. I think I've touched on this before in other readings. And it's because they haven't had equal rights. It's because we've lived in a patriarchal society where women were treated like second-class citizens. So what do? You have to band together because you can't expect the male-dominated society to support you. You have to depend on other women to support you because that's where your support network is. So this is kind of like their support network here. And they need to discuss what their values are. And is it worth changing your values because of what they've done and what it looks like they will do to you? I think what you're going to see with women, Nikki Haley, Suburban mothers, is they're going to start developing a plan. There's going to be a momentum, probably in changing their values in this one. It's, you know, again, as they have that discussion, plans form, ideas get cemented. The lesson to be learned is, you know, in some ways, this election for them is a make or break election. What's going to happen next if we don't do something about it? If we don't do something now, will we lose all of our rights? You know, it's kind of down to that. I don't know if a lot of them think that way, but again, if you get to the group think and you get some of the stronger personalities just letting them know, hey, look, this is the way it's going to be if we don't do something, that can get that message across. And women will believe it. Again, they've been in positions not so long ago where they couldn't get a credit card. There were 4 jobs that they could have. You couldn't get a divorce without your husband's permission. You didn't have the right to vote. If you were pregnant, you weren't going to be working. It's not that long ago. We're talking 100, 120 years ago type of thing. It's not that long ago. And apparently we're not so far gone that we can't just go right back to that. That's the mind-blowing part. Roe v. Wade was a real wake-up call. They need to look at their values. They need to look at their integrity. And they really, really, really need to make up their mind on their values. What's important and what's folly. Because, again, this election is huge. It's wildly important. And not just for themselves. It's for their friends. It's for their daughters. It's for their moms, for their sisters, for their aunts, for their nieces, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I do think Biden did a really good job with his speech. And I think it resonated with women. And I believe that's who the target audience was going to be. I think I've over-talked this one enough as it is. We'll see how things pan out. We'll keep an eye out for any Knights of Swords racing around. You know what I mean? Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your likes and your shares and your comments and everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm to help this channel make it out to a wider audience. To folks just discovering this channel recently or for the first time, welcome to the channel. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.